we're working on getting one college area filled, and another person had a special class conflict tonight. But it looks like everyone is able to make the meeting time for next semester. Ideally, I'll pass around the agenda and the calendar for next semester printed out. But yeah, I was gonna say everyone. I think we should go around the room again just to get familiar with people's names and say your name and your role on this committee. Justin Rankin, co-chair of the committee with Jack Harris.
I'm Jack Harris, I'm the Speaker of the Senate and co-chair with Jessica.
I'm Trenton Kennedy. I am Supervisor Vice President, and I'm your Norville Scribe.
Heather Reed, Student Life. I'm advising SGA.
And I'm Blake Reed. I'm just here covering for the collegiate. So.
Oh, no relation.
No relation.
I'm Andy Bennett. I'm Faculty Senate President and Head of the Department of Mathematics. I do the reason college algebra. And I'm here at Spicio.
My name is April Mason. I serve as the Provost and Senior Vice President. I also believe in algebra, by the way. And I'm also ex officio.
Cindy Bontrager, VP for Administration and Finance, and I'm not going to say anything about algebra.
I'm Anna Jackson. I'm the representative for the College of Education.
I'm Kat Griffin. I'm the representative for the College of Architecture.
I'm Matt Daly. I'm the representative for the College of Agriculture.
I'm Drew Borman. I'm the representative for the College of Business.
I'm Jonathan, Privilege Chair. I'm not really.
It's an illusion.
Appreciate Bill helping with our technology.
Oh, I'm Macy Schneeweiss. I'm representative from the Polytechnic campus.
Okay. And I think the first item on our agenda is to after we get rid of college algebra, to look at Vice President Bontrager's spreadsheets and hear from her about some different information relating to tuition and how we compare against other schools, particularly those around us and those in the Big 12.
Alrighty, so we have quite a few paper copies, and so sorry for the trees that we anyway. And we did send electronic versions to Jessica and Jack. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass them all out, and then we can talk about them. But what this is basically comparison of where we stand in out-of-state, in-state tuition and fees. The large ones are just about every institution in America, and I think it was APLU, but then it seems like it kind of grew. There were other institutions included. Our information comes from the Chronicle. Did I already give you one? Because I'm like, why am I handing you that again? And then this last sheet does Big 12, including border states, which is kind of the old Big 12. And on the back is Regent Kansas universities. So if we can start with the purple sheets, which is the resident tuition and fees. And K-State has ranked, and we've moved up a few spots. Oh gosh, I can't read the ranking. That isn't very good, but 86. Thank you, math guy. 86 on page 2, on the back of page 2. So what we do is we just compare for the fiscal year 17, which is fall of this fall's what tuition and fees were. Then you can see, ironically, Washington State, which now that we have ties there with our former president, is right above us. And interestingly enough, they have been declining their tuition and fees. So I need to find out what's up with that and how we can figure out, yeah, how are they doing that? Probably state's providing. At the bottom, then I just wanted to kind of explain to you a little bit. At the bottom of the final page, it just kind of goes in and shows, at the very bottom is an average. And then we do mean and medians, and then it shows how K-State compares to that. And as you can see, if you look clear over to fiscal year 17, far right column, that we are right at the median, right at 100%. So we are right there with the median of the group and a little bit under for the mean. With where we are with tuition and fees, which for 17 is $9,874. And so that's a similar analysis that we did then for out of state or the non-resident. We're a little farther up in the group, I believe, on the yellow sheets. And it should be bolded. So it's
81.
Yeah, try to kind of make it a little easier to find. And then we have the same analysis at the bottom. So for out of state, our annual tuition is $24,775, tuition and fees. Now these are university-wide fees. This would be privilege fees would be included in this. This would not include college-specific fees. And then the white sheet is Big 12. And you can see for resident, we fell back to the middle of the pack in 17. We ranked 6 out of 12. I guess we moved up, if you will. We were 8. We've been running around 8 or 9 of the 12. This year we were 6, and then out of state, we are 7th of 12. And then, of course, when you look at Kansas, KU is the one that is the highest. We're second highest. You would expect that with Research Comprehensive University. I did do, our student looked to see KU is reporting their compact rate. Because I was curious which one that they used. And again, this comes from the Chronicle. And so what they used is the compact rate. And if you recall, that will stay flat for freshmen coming in as long as they continue each year full time, 4 years. So it is higher. Any questions?
Does everybody know what a compact is? Just want to be sure.
It's like a deal that they make it simpler for families. But
I think you also refer it as guaranteed tuition, right, or locked in? Is that
Yeah,
the same thing?
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
It's usually a little higher at the freshman level, but it doesn't increase over the 4 years. So you're guaranteed the same amount.
So, any questions about kind of all this information? It's a lot, so you probably want to take it home and look at it.
Anything you want to draw their attention to specifically in terms of target institutions? If Dr. Bosco were here, he would talk about our competitors. If you don't come to Kansas State, where do you go? I'm not in admissions and recruitment, so I don't look at it that way. I look at our K-State 2025 peers, which is a different set of institutions. KU is not in that set of institutions. UMass Amherst, Washington State, Colorado State, Iowa State, Clemson, et cetera, are in there. So it depends on how you want to slice and dice this, and so you have it all the data here. I appreciate knowing the mean and the things that you put in here, Cindy.
I would just encourage committee members to look at these and draw the comparisons and draw on our ranks and where we stand compared to both peer institutions and institutions out of state. But at the end of the day, we are Kansas State. We're the nation's first land grant institution. We have a very ingrained historical commitment to access. And at the end of the day, we're going to make decisions based on behalf of our fellow students. And so while these are very important and telling, this by no means is the end all be all for how we decide things.
Well, I would agree with Trenton. I think really the important thing is to look at the trend, to look at where we were. That's why we include so many years. So you can kind of see how we have progressed. You know, I can probably share with you the years, you know, since 08, 09, the state has continued to reduce their resources. And that's probably where you can see the largest increases. We've consistently had to do when we're needing to finance, you know, 100% of the instructional mission of the institution, basically from tuition, it's a burden. And, you know, that's what we're needing to do with. And what I mean by that is we haven't provided, you know, very many salary increases, but we are funding benefit rate changes. So health insurance, you know, that's hitting families all across the country right now. And it will hit our employees and as an employer, you know, this January. So we saw an increase. We're going to see it again in fiscal year 18. We're already planning for that. So we know those types of costs increase without support from the state. You know, utility, those type of things, just keeping the lights on. Try to go around, let's shut the lights off. Try to put things in new buildings to try to help us conserve energy, things like that. We have a responsibility, I think, to do whatever we can to try to keep those costs down. Weather's been cooperating with this. Natural gas pricing has helped us out there. That's one of our largest budget type items. You know, utilities and scholarships. To be quite frank, they're a large output of our operating expenditures. That's non-salary, if you will.
And I think it's interesting too to look at these while considering that college-specific fees aren't even included in these documents, and so especially when you consider the colleges that have even larger per credit hour fees, that when you need to look at this number, but then also mentally add in, well, if a student's in this college, then they also have this added cost into it. If they take classes in this other college as well, they'll have these added fees, and so that's something to keep in mind as we look at college-specific fees.
I would just add to that, Jessica, we've done research, and I think it's fair to say that most universities have college-specific fees, especially in business and engineering. Some of them have them in every college. So it is difficult to compare because they don't have to disclose that. So the budget office has done research and gone out to web pages and finding that information to help with, you know, deans and things, and they'll come in with that information. So that's why, you know, this information is great. It's trying to compare apples to apples, but there are additional costs at every institution that's not being disclosed here.
As someone who has paid tuition at some of these other schools, I'm quite well aware that not necessarily college-specific fees, but differential tuition is fairly common at some of these schools, where your son calls and says, "I'm changing my major," and it's sort of, no, go that way's cheaper.
Anything else about these documents? We'll move on to talk about different tuition models, which fits nicely into kind of the discussion after looking at these documents that Cindy showed us, and building off of Dr. Bennett's comment about differential tuition model and how there are different models that universities can take when considering how they want to assess the cost of going to college. Some of those different models could be predicted tuition rate, like we typically use, increasing by a percentage each year, but in the past it's also been kind of a dollar amount per credit hour that has increased, correct? And there's also differential tuition, flat rate tuition, guaranteed tuition, or compact rate, as we were talking about earlier. And so we just kind of want to make sure you're aware of some of that vocabulary moving forward, as that might come up in discussions, particularly differential tuition, as that is sort of what we're looking at when it comes to college-specific fees. Differential tuition is kind of what Dr. Bennett was talking about. I don't know if most of you might be aware of what that term means, but it is when you're in one college and it has a different tuition amount than another college. It's just pricing differently compared on the cost that it takes to deliver the education in that college. And so say engineering would have a higher tuition rate likely under a differential tuition model than maybe arts and sciences or community college. You would be paying a different amount, and you would be kind of aware of that up front rather than through college specific fees. Am I describing that correctly?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's, and then did you want to, so with the tuition model discussion, do you want to talk specifically about what our kind of or maybe a better question for Dr. Mason. You want to talk about kind of what discussions are currently existing with our tuition models and the kind of history of our tuition models?
Well, maybe
maybe
Cindy and I can do that a bit together. You know, that this maybe is a great time, and I want to compliment you and Jessica again for starting these committee meetings up early. Sorry, not everybody's here, but we have a little opportunity to talk more philosophically rather than digging into specifics. Cindy and I, our budget director, Ethan Erickson, who was here a couple of weeks ago, and Lynn Carlin, and I have talked a lot recently about how tuition's been charged by the credit hour here at Kansas State previously, how it has changed now to it's a flat credit hour rate. You take 15, you pay for 15. Previously, you paid for 15, you could take as many as you wanted. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, there was well, at one point there was a semester fee. I don't recall if it was 12 or 14 hours. Anything above that, it was free. It was free.
So there are different ways of looking at it. Changing really changes the modeling of how we collect revenue and how much revenue we can anticipate coming in. You just talked about differential tuition. I was going to say Iowa State has differential tuition, Colorado State has differential tuition, Oregon State has differential tuition, predominantly in the areas that we've just mentioned, engineering and business administration. But at Colorado State, and I was a dean there previously, we had it across campus in different areas. And we actually did a study to look at how expensive is it to offer a course in nutrition, in health and exercise science, in biochemistry, and that kind of thing, so that we would be able to apply. It was either a 5, now this is ancient because I've been gone for 7 years, but 5, 10 or $25 differential tuition on by course. It's just different ways of doing it. The conversation that is more philosophical, and one that I think is pertinent for this group, and that we'll talk about Thursday at the Budget Advisory Committee, is what should be covered under tuition and what should be covered under a fee. So it seems pretty straightforward if you're taking an art class and you're using clay, or you're using paints, or you're using whatever you, I'm not very artsy, but your supplies. You need those supplies to take the course. Well, this morning at Cabinet, and Andy, Cindy, and I were all there, as was Jessica, we talked about IT needs, information technology. We all are bringing our laptops or our iPads here because Jack sent us information that we don't want to carry around in reams of paper. You expect that to work here in the union. You expect that to work in the library. You expect that to work all over campus. Well, who pays for that? That feels like it should be paid by your tuition. Well, we don't have enough tuition revenue coming in right now, and haven't for the last number of years, to make some substantial upgrades in our IT system, and Jessica heard that this morning. We've just gone through a legislative audit saying we need to do this, 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 and this. And they'll be coming back in a year to find out, did we do this, 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 and this? So we have to do it. I think that's something that it's important for us to talk about. If you take an engineering class, it costs more. You expect as an engineer, probably, even if your dad is Andy Bennett, that you have to pay more for that. But if you're taking a, I don't know, an English class or a history class, you still expect IT connection. You still expect an advisor. You still expect all these other things. You should, in my opinion, it's hard to say that we shouldn't bring that out of tuition. Why should we say you have to pay a special fee to have that? And that's, I think, what we struggled with last year in this committee. The problem is we don't have enough revenue centrally to do all those things. We don't have the revenue. If Dr. Bosco would be here, he'd say we don't have enough revenue to hire the counselors he needs in the counseling center. We don't have enough revenue to make the fixes in our information technology program. For good reasons, not because anybody has not wanted to make investments, but we've had budget cuts from the state. We're building our own buildings. Engineering and business, who's our business person? There you are. We built a building with philanthropic dollars and some dollars provided by the university. The state of Kansas didn't give us a penny for that. Now we have to keep it clean. We have to do the maintenance around the building. We have to plan for a new roof in 15 years.
He didn't cool it.
He didn't cool it. No money coming in from the state to do that. That's why we're in this particular problem. That's why you get proposals from deans for fees, because we're not giving them centrally enough money to run the programs they want to. And I think we're at a pivotal point. We have to decide, how big do we want the university to be? What services are we going to provide? What are we going to push off to you as fees, as tuition? How are we going to work with the state to make our case that Kansas State University, those first two words are pretty important, Kansas State University. And yet we get 18% of our budget from the state of Kansas.
And I think too, it's, when you talk about the primary reason that tuition and fees have risen over the years, it's because of declining state support. But from a state legislature side, we're the easiest to cut because we're one of the few state agencies that generate so much revenue every year. And we, throughout the years, to our downfall, we've been innovative enough and we've been strategic enough that we haven't necessarily cut enough services to make a big impact on the student body. With the declining state support, we've been able to cut our budgets and charge more and maintain a very certain level of excellence. And that leads into the question, well, is our university too big? And I think that's a question that's never been asked by students is, are there things that we can stop doing to save money that still advance our mission as a university?
And that's the kind of turning point that I think we're at, is that we have to make those decisions. You can help us with that, but we have to do that. Faculty Senate, administration, others have to really think about this, because that's exactly what we've done. We've not shown pain. I may not be a popular provost here, but the library came to me and said, we can't stay open 24/5 anymore. We do not have the funds. We knew that was going to be very painful for many students, and the Dean of Libraries is still talking about the effects of that now, X number of months after we did it. But to Trenton's point, when are we going to show the pain of what's happening? They keep decreasing our budget, and yet we're showing no pain. And we're to the point it's going to show, and it's going to affect you. It's going to affect us.
And that's we are seeing it for our students. I mean, it's getting very difficult for the students to afford. And so we are seeing, it's got to have some impact on our enrollments.
They can see it, but does the legislature see it? That's what I meant. I know you're feeling it in the pocketbook. I didn't mean to but is the legislature seeing it?
And I'm not sure, Trenton, your fact is correct, that higher education is that easy to cut, because I'd like to look at the analysis that state government has been decimated. And I think other agencies, if you look at a percentage of reduction, because when I look at services that are provided from the state, it has declined. They don't have as many people, and it's been affected. You know, so higher ed is part of that, but also the government. And I think that was the politics too, smaller government. You know, we had a very conservative thing. And so that's result of what's happened. So it's not just higher education, it's K through 12, it's all of state government has been reduced. And that's, you know, what we're dealing with. Now, higher ed has tuition, so we've been able to increase and still maintain sense of quality, and that we are to that point where we're looking at our needs and our priorities. I don't think we can continue pricing it and expecting to get the revenue from our tuition. So we're going to have to start looking at what do we stop doing that doesn't impact and have a huge on the revenue, you know, source too. So
one of the things that I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I didn't have much of that.
I was gonna say one of the things I thought was interesting that Dr. Bosco said a couple times. I've kind of said kind of what the point of Trent is saying. I know that several other people have echoed that same concern. You know, about it's tough to not want to cut higher education when we've made things work with less. And Dr. Bosco, I think, brought up a good point that I hadn't thought of, which was that, you know, to maintain our recruitment levels, you know, we really can't be running around saying the sky is falling, and you know, we have to maintain a certain level of excellence at K-State, because that recruitment drives the money that does come in from tuition. So I think it's probably a fine balance that to achieve. That probably easier said than done.
That's a good point. I don't want anyone to leave this room thinking that I think the sky has fallen,
right.
or is even contemplating falling. What in my opinion we need to do is do some different modeling such that we do stop doing some things. There's some things I'm sure we all could stop doing to save money and be sure that the quality of the education that you're obtaining is as high as it has ever been. You're absolutely right. Give Dr. Bosco a hard job, say everything's crumbling, and then go out and recruit students to come here. You know everything's not crumbling, but we're hard on ourselves. We want everything to be have highest of highest quality for you as the students, for our faculty who are producing wonderful research and doing innovative things in laboratories and studios. We want this to be a top 50 public research university, but not at increasing the cost of tuition and every fee in the world on your backs. We need to do something else.
And to kind of that question that you posed earlier about what should be under tuition and what should be under a fee, you kind of spoke to that a little bit about examples of like technology. We all need that. We all expect that in our environments. And then college specific, what are some kind of items that you think really make sense for college specific fees?
I use the art example, and we have, and Andy's as aware of this as anyone. I think if you ask Arts and Sciences to come back and report on their fee, the report that they gave a couple of years ago, and I think it was before any of you were here, they came in and showed the equipment that they've been able to purchase for the laboratories in biochemistry and biology and chemistry. They showed the before and after, and it was a pretty ugly before and a really nice after. I saw equipment that they've been able to buy for teaching laboratories that there's no way in the world they would have been able to purchase without the fee. That's an example that just resonates with me. You want our students to go out, and irregardless of your major, I'm talking about arts and sciences, but architecture. You want your students to go out having used or been exposed to the very best software, the very best things that are being used in the field, so that when they're out in the workplace, they're familiar with it. They know what's going on. And one of your former senators spoke to the regents last spring and talked about, you know, I've been using a 3D printer for some of the work I've been doing for the last couple of years. That's gonna make me more competitive in the workplace when I go out. That's what we want.
So kind of on that note, we kind of like to discuss what a fee proposal looks like. And so the document that I sent out at 4 o'clock today should be a PDF of 4 fee proposals from this past year.
So now I know how much attention you were paying in the last meeting.
I was paying good attention. I didn't send this out at the very beginning. I promise. Sadly, it's an exact. So, so if you look, so organize it, it's the college business proposal, college engineering proposal, the library proposal, and the arts and science proposal. Why don't we walk through one of these, perhaps one of the shorter ones like libraries.
Have you found the page yet?
Yeah, so say it's page 51. Like I said, I don't know if you guys can see these bookmarks. They work on my laptop. I don't know if they work on everybody else's.
So the first comment is 52 on mine, but
Oh, sorry.
the first comment I will make is that in years past, we didn't have a common format for the proposals to come in. And that was one of the things the Budget Advisory Committee, we had a subcommittee that looked at tuition and fees. And they came up with this kind of template. So you have the instructions that on mine are on page 51. And then with the libraries one that Jack mentioned, we have all the information, general description of what the fee will be used for, fee explanation. In the business one, there were some additional things that came in, but a summary of the way that they've talked to students about this, how much would come in, how would they use it. This is the kind of thing that we said just had to be in the proposal or it wouldn't even be considered. I think that's helped us a great deal.
And Dr. Mason, I apologize for not knowing this answer, but do you see the same proposal that the committee sees when it's sent to you? Okay, cool.
So they get submitted to me. If you go back to one of the instruction pages, we've not changed these dates. February 1, deadline for proposals to be submitted to me. February 15th, Provost distributes fee proposals to the University Budget Committee and the Tuition and Fees Strategies Committee. I think, if I remember, you have us looking at fees a little bit earlier than that, or not?
I do, I mean, earlier,
But no, you're okay. The 21st, presentations.
I was discussing
the
proposal
whole,
on February 7th.
yeah, and that might be a tad early for me to, depending on how many there are, for me to screen them and get them to you. Because you'll want them in advance to read before the meeting, so that's a little squeezy.
I could push that back a week and then maybe move the schedule back a week.
Yeah. Then the latter part of April, approval deadline for fee by the Tuition and Fees Strategies Committee. I don't think we made that. We were real close this last time. And then presentation of the fees and tuition proposals to the Kansas Board of Regents. So for new people on the committee, that's essentially the timeline. Cindy can give us the exact dates when they give them to her, but when things have to be sent to the board. And then it's been Kansas State's tradition that we present together, the president of the university and the president of SGA. I'm sure that that's probably what President Myers will want to do. It's what We did, because the President Schultz was not available for that meeting.
Yeah, usually the 1st of May, sometimes that, because it's the May meeting, so I think the schedule is.
Yeah, your schedule is good. I just was a little worried about that February 7th. I can probably triage them and decide which ones are getting sent to you, but I want to give you some time to actually read them.
Yeah, I allowed time for just an estimated 6 proposed fees. I figured that was a reasonable number.
I think that's reasonable. And what Jessica and Jack are suggesting with this is different. That you have all the fee proposals, you could say, but nobody's in here making the case yet. Like here they all are. You've got one from this college, one from this, etc. And you can start asking the questions so that we don't have to spend 2 whole meetings, which happened a couple times, on one proposal. That you can get some of your questions vetted. We can ask the presenter to be sure you cover these things. We spent a lot of time. Not that I'm unwilling to spend the time, but we spent a lot of time.
Yeah. I'm hoping that a schedule and a clear, we're talking about this then can help streamline it a little bit.
And I think that Dr. Mason bring up a good point that hopefully in the initial meeting, when we're looking at proposals all together, you'd say, okay, here are specific things that I want to see. You eliminate an extra week of having to go back. So.
I think looking at it in a vacuum there first will be good.
I also like that you'll be reviewing existing fees in advance. So the committee will get a feel for, well, what have people done with these fees previously? And how are they coming back and being accountable for them? I think that's really effective.
And then if you look through the rest of the fee, you'll see a little more information on the process, the expectations and the criteria. And then you'll go on to see specifically what the library was requesting for and kind of what that form looks like. And this can give you kind of an idea of what you'll be looking for in the fee proposals next semester and how that will be set up. And kind of you can use this and reference kind of the conversations that took place in the minutes from last year's tuition and fee strategies committee, so you can see maybe what questions they had about the business, the engineering, the library's fee, and everything like that, because that should be in those documents. And so you can see what are some questions that one would generally have about this. I know, for instance, on the one we're looking at right now with libraries, some of the questions associated with this entity's request was kind of if it was more for enhancements and if it was necessarily a need instead of a want, that would really make the I think it was a general consensus that these enhancements would make the library a lot better, but at that time it wasn't viewed as necessarily a need that would keep the library open or that would give the library certain things that they felt that students need to be paying a fee for. Because I think this is a unique kind of situation too with a university-wide fee that they'd be approving rather than a college-specific. So I think that kind of gave way to some different types of questions too. And I don't know if we'll have any ones quite like this year unless libraries comes back again or anywhere else on campus that would be university-wide.
I think one of the things, you scroll down kind of where I am on the screen about a summary of the Dean's Advisory Council's thoughts. So I think one of the big important things for our consideration of fees is student input and student, I guess, awareness of the fee. And Dr. Mason, I know you had mentioned previously that there have been times when you have stopped a fee from coming through on the grounds, correct?
Where, in my estimation, either there wasn't enough student input or the student input was negative, and they wanted to bring it forward anyway. I thought, sort of dead on arrival here. The students are not in support of it, so I have pulled a couple back.
I think that's something that the committee should think about too when you're looking at the. I know this one has like the library ambassadors, their feedback and their vote. That's something. I think that's super valuable. And to look at. I think that's something that I always have to remind myself of. So that's one of the things that we discussed in the Dean's Forum for engineering. I was down on Monday, which is that, you know, we could have ideas thrown on the table, but, you know, it's really important to represent constituents from across the board. So just something to think about.
Yeah, a lot of times, sometimes proposals will attach maybe signatures from students who are president of organizations or students who are on their Dean's Advisory Council. Sometimes they'll bring in students from their college to kind of be there to give testimonials and show support for it. So that's why I think too, a lot of times it's really important that they kind of have support from students in their colleges when they put it forward, but it's also important, I think, that we are looking at the proposals separately too, so we kind of have some objective questions going into that time with the deans and whatever students they bring and things like that, and so we're not swayed solely by the pretty picture that they're all going to sell us, essentially. Not that they're not all worthy of being approved, but so we can kind of have a more objective scrutiny by just looking at it on paper, I think will be helpful. Does anyone have any questions looking through this?
Yeah, I would encourage you to thumb through these proposals, especially like, you know, looking at, so the library one is straightforward in the sense that, I mean, they're all well written, straightforward, but I think you look at something like a College of Business, Jessica was saying much about their signatures, or maybe it was which proposal it was, but anyway, and each kind of proposal does have its own nuances that are probably important to look at and make sure that we can read every proposal in depth and all that the dean provides for that.
And some of they will be different in the sense that they already have existing fees in their colleges, like business, engineering, arts and sciences, and those. And so we will need to look at their proposal, but then also consider into our discussion the fact that they have existing fees, and we can definitely inquire about how they're using those existing fees efficiently, and maybe if they're asking for funds to kind of make up for the fact that they have had budget cuts, unfortunately, then we can ask maybe about ways they've been more efficient in light of budget cuts and why they need more money to fill those if they've been able to kind of make cuts in other areas that would make it so they would not need to ask for that.
Are there any questions kind of spoken through here though?
I have a question for you and Jeff. When we met, were you not going to invite Sue Peterson? Did I miss anything?
We were, but we kind of thought it would be short turnaround and it might just be better at the beginning of next semester.
With the session,
yeah,
with the
when
legislature
the
being
session
in session.
started and when we kind of have a clearer idea for what might be coming down the pipeline, and then just to kind of talk about these items at this meeting.
I'm going to steal Dr. Bennett's words. See, I wasn't paying attention. That we probably won't, although now I'm screwed up the quote, we probably won't, or according to Sue Peterson, that we probably won't really have a good picture of what we can expect maybe until even this early December. Is that what she had kind of said?
Well, no, the leadership.
Yeah.
Oh, leadership in
The
December.
leadership.
January,
But
actually,
we-
for budget.
Okay.
After the governor does his state of the state and puts out his budget, we'll have our first inclination. After that, it's
And that's in
probably not till the
January?
end of. That's
January
in
9th,
January.
I think.
Is it January?
January
Okay.
9th, I think is the date Sue's mentioned. And I just saw an article in the Capital Journal where it talked about he's sticking to that. He's not disclosing any budget information. No allotments or anything till January.
and to the point about December is that's when leadership decisions are made where you can know who chairs are going to be speaker. Those positions.
So you'll need to put that in your schedule someplace. Yeah. Maybe that February 7th meeting that I don't think you'll have all the proposals yet.
That's good.
Yeah, we can do that after this year. Yeah.
Just going forward, Jessica and I will work on some of the kinks on the calendar in regards to those. make sure we get the calendar out to you. Is there anything else as far as content-wise?
Yeah, I don't think so. Does anyone have any other questions other than those kind of time issues? Yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm a first timer, but for the ag presentation, do I have to make something for that?
No, we'll get in contact with Dean Floros
Okay.
about coming in and talking on his college specific fee.
Okay. I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, the 30-minute presentation.
Yeah.
PowerPoint. Actually, your dean will have a 30-minute presentation.
So I guess going forward, like I said, a pretty short meeting tonight. If you would take some time over the next couple weeks, especially when after finals are done, totally understand that concern. And do look through that orientation pack. I know that we had kind of given it the week before fall break and haven't really gone back to that, but I think that there is some pretty valuable information in there about just the history of the committee, kind of that could provide you some good context, I guess, for decisions that have been made, and perhaps set your mind for different kind of lenses to apply to when we look at the fees coming up soon. And I don't have anything else that you do.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Just opening up for any more questions anyone might have about the calendar, any concerns, or any further questions about anything we talked about. Okay. If not, we'll adjourn a little bit early.
All right.